Cool. Recording started. All right. Well, Kat, just want to first say thank you so much for sitting in today and letting me do an interview with you for Muscles and Malarkey. Do you want to tell me or tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into fitness?
I've sort of always done sports, right? I think that's every like powerlifter's backstory. I've always done sports, did volleyball in high school, sort of continued with that when I got to undergrad, but also kind of not in a structured way. So I think I was kind of lost in undergrad and like kind of dabbled in like Zumba classes, didn't really do anything formal, and then kind of gained weight from that, gained my, freshman 15 and was just kind of in and out, couldn't figure out what I really wanted to do, what I liked. I knew I should be moving, but didn't really find anything that just got me real jazzed about moving. When I went to graduate school, I sort of still did the Zumba thing, but I also discovered the group strength training classes. And, they're very like muscle endurance type, right? Like high rep, lightweight, but I really liked them. And I realized, I mean, I'm in a group of like somewhat older women, but I was pretty strong, like relatively strong. And I thought that was really cool. And then this was kind of when the Fitspo Instagram craze was happening. So like 2015, 16, maybe.
I talk about this in an episode because it's like that time. What years did you go to college?
So my first graduate school experience was between 2014, 2017.
Okay, so we were in like grad school around the same time, and I totally know what you're talking about. It was a movement. It truly was. In our age demographic, it was like Fitspo, baby.
And I just kept seeing that on Instagram, and I eventually the algorithm gods brought me Meg squats, and
Oh,
yeah.
shout out to Meg Squats, man. She was the gateway gal for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah, for me too. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, this looks really cool. Like you're telling me I could lift as heavy as I possibly can." At this point, I was so intimidated by the weight room and just could not do it because I was going to the Y, right? And they like very much set boundaries between the free weight section and between the machines and the cardio equipment. And I just could not bring myself to go into the free weight section. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to look ridiculous. Everyone's going to be judging me. And so my then boyfriend, now husband, I was like, show me how to use a squat rack. And he did. And he was so sweet about it. And he stayed with me for the first 3 months, did every workout with me. I eventually became comfortable with that and started doing like specific powerlifting programming. Eventually decided to compete. And here we are, what, 7, 8 years later?
It sounds like you and I got into fitness and like lifting around the same time. Was that like 2017-ish?
There, it would have been thereabouts.
Shout out to Kurt, man. We love a supportive significant other. Having someone to show you the ropes and give you a little bit of advice and like just support, you know? I think that's great that he came to the gym with you for the first like 3 months of your journey.
I would not have done it without him because even something as simple as like, how do you move J hooks on a squat rack? Like that can bring up a lot of social anxiety. Just not knowing what you're doing. Yeah, he just alleviated all of that for me.
You know, I really love hearing about supportive husbands and just how about this? Supportive significant others in general. Like that really makes my heart happy. Supporting women in the gym. A lot of times people will ask me like, "Oh, does Jarrett also lift?" He's a farmer and mechanic, and one day he told me how he lifted like a 370-pound engine by himself, and I'm like, "You should be in strongman. That's what you should be doing." So you said that you started competing. When was your first competition?
Ooh, I think it was summer 2018. We have something in Kansas called the Sunflower State Games, and it's just a bunch of different events, bunch of different sports, and powerlifting is one of them. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna try this. We're gonna see if I even like competing. Had no idea what I was doing. Had like the what is it, starting strength singlet, just the most plain singlet ever. it was so awkward even like trying to warm up with people, but I just ended up loving it.
When you did your first meet, did your then boyfriend, now husband, handle you at all, or were you just rolling solo at that meet?
No, he handled me because I am very much the type of person to like Google and look up and research everything that I possibly can. So, like, I knew how to set my openers, I knew what a handler was, I knew all of that. I read the rule book front to back, very much knew. So, he was there to help and give support.
So many things I want to point out from the statement that you just made. But the biggest one is you read the rule book before your first meet.
I did.
It's almost like you should do that.
I know.
You really should do that. My coach very consistently, Jess,
Yeah.
she would just say like, "Hey guys, don't forget you really should read the rule book. At least understand the rules for the squat, the bench, the deadlift, and what you can wear and what you should wear or have to wear for each event."
Oh my gosh. So, on a slightly related note, so I'm also a ref, right? So, I was doing weigh ins for this meet that we had last weekend. And this guy came in, had paid his registration, paid for his USPA membership, all the things. And one of the first things he asked me was, "Can I squat with a bar pad?" And I was like, "No, you can't squat with a bar pad." And he kind of looks at me and he's like, "Okay, that'll make it a little bit harder." And I was like, start pulling out your equipment." And he pulls out deadlift straps and shorts. And I was like, we okay, so we need a singlet and we can't use deadlift straps. By this time he was kind of getting upset. And I was like, this is all in the rule book. All of this.
Yeah.
Words of the wise, read your rule book.
Oh my Lanta. I thought it was bad when someone I went to a meet with previously, she didn't bring deadlift socks and didn't read the rule book even after multiple people told her to read the rule book. And when she went in for her equipment check, they were like, "Where are your deadlift socks?" And she said, "Oh, I don't wear them." And they're like, "You have to wear deadlift socks." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't know." When I talked to her about it, she said to me, she's like, "Oh, I thought you just wore those to look cool." And I'm like, "No. I do like to coordinate my outfits, but no. They serve a purpose." So to go back in so you had your first meet and your husband was wonderful and handled you. Do you remember what you hit for your lifts for your first meet?
Yes, and I think I'll always remember these numbers. It was a 214 squat, a 126 bench, and a 253 deadlift.
That's awesome. So you recently competed. When did you compete?
This past Saturday, I did deadlift only.
Hell yeah, girl. That's fucking awesome. What did you hit for your deadlift?
This was 330.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that was, hold on, if I remember, because I saw your post. That's a state record, isn't it?
Yeah. So for this one, my opener was actually a state record, and then I subsequently beat my own state record for the next two attempts.
There's just like something about opening with a state record. It's such a baller move. What made you want to do deadlift only?
Like I said, I'm also a ref, and I really enjoy refing. I don't know if that sounds weird, but I really enjoy refing. And so I refed part of the meet, deadlifted for deadlift, and then went right back after I deadlifted and changed clothes and went back to refing. So it was like having the best of both worlds. Didn't have to do an entire prep, just prepped my deadlift.
Get you a girl who does both, number one. But also you made the comment, you're like, "I don't know if that's weird." I don't think that's weird at all to enjoy refereeing. Like, isn't that the whole point is you really like have a passion for this and you love powerlifting and you want to give back to the sport?
Yeah, for sure.
Dang, I might need to do a meet out in Kansas. It sounds like you guys put on a good show.
I'm just throwing this out there. I direct an all women's meet every December.
Okay, I know what I'm doing December of 2026. I'm gonna put it in. Do you know what weekend that'll be?
The first Saturday in December.
Okay, for real? You think I'm joking? I'm not. I've now planned out my 2026 meet schedule, so thank you for that. What's the name of is it Iron Maidens?
Yep, Iron Maidens of the Midwest.
I'm really big on supporting local meets. Like I said, you and I started powerlifting around the same time, and that's all we really had. I mean, there was nationals, but it was like a really big freaking deal if you went to nationals or to the Arnold.
Mhm.
It's a lot of fun to do local meets.
I'm actually not from the Midwest originally,
Where are you from originally?
San Antonio.
Ooh, how'd you end up in Kansas?
Came for graduate school for the first master's and met my husband while in graduate school, and we stayed.
You know what? I knew as soon as you started that, I'm like, she met a man. And rule number one, never meet a man.
Yep.
Never. Man, what do you miss about San Antonio?
Literally everything.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just different. I mean, the culture and my family is still there. It was not as flat as Kansas is.
I don't even think the Midwesterners understand how flat. They're like, yeah, no, we know. It's like, no, I live in upstate New York area and it's beautiful. There are hills. There is lakes. There is beauty and there's not endless corn.
My
So
husband makes the joke, "You can watch your dog run away for 2 days." That's how flat it is.
one of the other comments in that statement that you made, the other part that really kind of like ticked my brain when you were talking about your first meet and how you studied everything and you looked up everything. You have talked about grad school a couple of times too. Give me the rundown on where you went to school. What do you have your degrees in?
My undergrad was at Baylor, and I have my bachelor's in anthropology. And then after that, I came here to Kansas for a master's in anthropology. Got that in 2017. And then a few years later, decided to get a master's in public health. And I just graduated with that last April.
Okay, let's talk about anthropology. I'm not sure, like, what is anthropology and what drew you to that for degrees?
So, anthropology is basically the study of humans, humanity, and it has four major subfields. So, cultural anthropology, linguistic anthropology, biological anthropology, and linguistics. So, I did biological, which is basically like the study of the human form and the skeleton and how it has evolved over time. And I got into that because I originally was in undergrad as a pre med. I wanted to go to medical school and I saw a flyer for a course called Human Osteology. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And like a lot of pre med people probably don't take that. And so I would have a leg up if I took it. And it was through the anthropology department. Took it, got to learn every single thing about every single bone in the human body. And by the end of that semester, I was like, yeah, I'm changing my major because this is really freaking cool.
That's amazing. That's like really tickling my brain right there. That sounds so cool.
So, the show Bones, she's a forensic anthropologist. That's what most people kind of associate with anthropology. So that's like a sub field under biological anthropology.
Would you have to pursue more education to become a forensic anthropologist?
To be accredited, yes, but in my undergrad and in my graduate school, I did a lot of forensic work. I've worked on the Texas Mexico border with like exhuming undocumented migrants because we try to figure out who they are based on their bones and then repatriate them to their home countries. So I did a lot of work with that. I don't know if you know what a body farm is.
My mind is so blown right now. Please continue. This is so interesting.
So, a body farm is acreage of land, hopefully at a school. Researchers leave out human cadavers in different situations, different environments to see how they decompose. So, it helps law enforcement with figuring out time of death and things like that. So, they may be like left out in the open, left in a car, left with a tarp over them. So that was also part of my undergraduate and graduate experience was volunteering at a body farm.
You have quite the amount of fun facts that you can really throw out, like at a party. I'm just thinking of Grissom from CSI and the
Yeah.
bugs. Me personally, I work in healthcare, right? I'm very much like a on the alive side of working with patients. Did it bother you at all? Did you have to like get over like working with dead bodies?
I don't remember ever struggling with it. But that being said, my first introduction to a quote unquote body was skeletal remains. And only after that did I deal with like actively decomposing, like the kind of stuff that would kind of mentally mess with you. And so I think because I did it in that order, I didn't have that like weird transition period of being bothered by it.
You're a stronger woman than I am. All right. Dang. I was very thankful that I did not have to do a cadaver lab in OT school. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I for my anthropology graduate program, I took gross anatomy and it was the best class I've ever taken.
Kat, I want to pick your brain so much. Just like you picked the brain of those cadavers. But I'm forcing myself because I could just sit here and ask you all these questions, but I really want to talk about your other degree, which is in public health. At what point did you think, yes, I want to do college again? I want to do more grad school and go through the pain once more.
I think what got me interested in public health itself was that we were going through the pandemic and there was just so much misinformation going on. And rationally, I was like, okay, I know what you're saying is wrong, but I don't know how to refute it, right? I know science well enough to know that what I'm seeing is incorrect, but I don't know why. And so I think that's what got me into public health itself. And then the masochism that it takes to go back to graduate school was kind of the harder question. Yeah, I don't know. I think ultimately I just wanted to learn more than I cared about the stress of going back to school.
You really strike me as that type of person
Yeah.
that is very hungry for knowledge and learning, and that is a very admirable trait.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was talking about this with a friend recently because they have been out of school for around a year and they are looking to go back to grad school. And I thought, you are in such a good position for that because you're still kind of in school mode. You can easily fall back into that. It's only been a year. I've been out of school for 8 years. Ow. And the thought of having to go back into like a classroom, screaming, crying, throwing up, no.
I agree. I actually just applied to some PhD programs. So if that tells you, I didn't want to get out of school mode like you were saying.
Kat, okay, what are you gonna do your PhD in?
So I applied to two different programs. There's a PhD in the anthropology of health. So it's slightly different than what I did in undergrad and my master's. And then there's a doctor of public health, so DRPH, through the University of Nebraska.
That is so freaking cool.
Yeah,
Dude,
we'll see if I get into either.
I'm sending you all the good vibes. I feel like they would be absolutely stupid to not accept you. Like, that is awesome. Yeah.
Because you never learn everything, right? And you never know where your strength potential is.
And there's always new things to learn, especially in the fitness realm. I mean, they're studying all this stuff, like they're studying different variables and really trying to go into the strength science of it all, right? And we're learning things that we thought we already knew. You're also a personal trainer, correct?
I am, yeah.
Oh my God. By golly, Kat, where do you find the time?
To be fair, the personal training certification was all online. I did ISSA.
Let's talk about public health. So, from the perspective of someone who works in public health, what are your thoughts with how to improve health in this country?
I think we need to look at, they're called boulders, right? So we have boulders, pebbles, and let's say sand. So boulders are going to get you the furthest, right? They're the most important factors. And I think those boulders are things like hitting our physical activity recommendations and limiting fast food, ultra processed food, eating mostly a nutrient dense diet, getting enough sleep, reducing stress, things like that. So I think those are the big things we need to focus on. And it seems like a lot of fitness world is focused on the sand. So instead of the big boulders, we're focused on just stuff that's maybe still important, but just not going to make as big of an impact for the majority of the population.
So if people are hitting their boulders, is there anything else that people can focus on? Or is there anything else that you think we need to, as a society, like at large, need to focus on to improve people's health?
To be completely honest, I also think we need to focus on being science and health literate in general to be able to kind of weed out the misinformation and to be able to distinguish between the boulders and the sand, right? Because a lot of people are focused on the wrong thing because, these fitness influencers are telling them that you should be focused on this. And the average person thinks, oh, this person in authority is telling me that I need to be focused on this. So obviously that's true. I think health literacy is a big thing too. And just knowing where to get trustworthy information, knowing how to tell what is misinformation. Yeah, those are the big things.
I am over here giving snaps to the health literacy because I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. I think that the healthcare system at large is very difficult to navigate, right? But then you throw in the language of healthcare workers. I think it's a fair statement to make that a lot of times doctors will say, well, you need to get more nutrients in your diet. And then that's it. They put the onus on the patient to be like, okay, well, I guess I need to figure out how to get more nutrients. What nutrients do you need to get? What should you focus on? What are good sources of those specific nutrients that you might be deficient in? And I think what you're saying overlaps with that because people can't educate themselves if they can't even identify what is factual, what is misinformation or disinformation. And a lot of times people are just trying to figure it out and they can't because they don't even know where to look. And like you said, people of authority are saying, you need to try colostrum. It is going to fix every single problem that you have. And you're like, you know what? I trust this person. I should really start taking colostrum. And it's like all the other things that you're not focusing on, but like you're focusing on that one thing, but you're completely ignoring your sleep, your protein intake, your
Yeah.
stress management.
Yeah.
People need resources. Is there anything that you can recommend as a good resource for people to find quality information so that they can become more health literate?
Yeah. So I think Instagram can be a great place. It really can. It is full of the misinformation. But if you find quality people on there that are sharing health information, I think that is something that's very accessible and very jargon free, right? And obviously, the CDC website is something else. They have nutrition recommendations, they have physical activity recommendations that we should all be meeting. And I know it's hard to like sift through the Instagram chaos, but look for people that have credentials. Not that credentials are the end all be all for knowledge, but it does help.
What are some like green flags that I might see content wise? Or even what are some red flags that you might see from someone who you probably shouldn't trust as much?
Yeah, so I think green flags would definitely be I would look first for a credential, and then I would also look if they provide nuance to what they're talking about. Because generally, red flags are going to be very like black and white thinking. You have to do this, you can't do this. So, a green flag for me is providing you with that nuance and helping you to come to your own conclusion.
I love that. That's an easy way you can kind of screen the information that you're getting from people. Kat, you're so interesting to talk to, for real. I feel like we have to get together another time and have another conversation because I have so many questions and you seem so incredibly knowledgeable. You post a lot of good stuff on your Instagram page. You had a post that was about tuberculosis outbreak. The one I shared the other day where you're like, "Oh, I'm so happy that they're finally focusing on American health." And it's like, we literally have been doing that.
My girl Michelle tried to do this back in 2010.
I hate this timeline, dude. also in regards to resources, you have some information too, correct? Is that something that people can find?
So I have obviously my Instagram. I try to share a lot of information there. My handle is Strength Coach Cat, KAT. So I also have a Substack where I write longer form articles to try to get a little bit more into the nuance, like we were talking about earlier. So I recently wrote an ebook called Public Health for Fitness Professionals because I think a lot of health and fitness people don't realize that what they're doing is public health. You are part of the public health workforce. I wrote that to kind of show people how they are part of public health, how they can help their communities be healthier on a larger scale. Because I think a lot of them think, like, well, I'm teaching, one client or a small group at a time. I'm not responsible for the health of the public. But that's a huge part of it, right? Exercise and nutritious eating, things like that are all things that we teach to our clients, and those are huge parts of public health.
That's such a fantastic point. Oh my gosh. So it sounds like that would be a really good resource for someone who is a fitness professional.
For sure, fitness professionals, but also anyone in the health and fitness space, right? Group exercise coaches, sports coaches, even if you're just interested in some basic public health concepts, it would be a good resource for that as well.
I really appreciate people who put out quality information like that. And the problem is that you are not an influencer, right? So like even though you have really good quality information, it is not as readily broadcasted to people, I guess would be a good way to put it, because you don't have a million people following you. But the
Yeah.
people who have a million followers are the ones that are saying like, don't eat tomatoes. Tomatoes are actually super acidic and they throw off the alkaline nature of your stomach lining, and that puts you into ketosis and you start getting catabolic. So if you just stop eating tomatoes, that will solve your PCOS.
It's a very good impression.
Thank you.
But yeah, that is part of the problem is that the quality information doesn't, it's not as readily available and it's not as clickbaity. At the same time, I've seen people that I'm friends with or acquainted with on Instagram that have shared misinformation or that have maybe posted just kind of like nuggets, hints of where their mindset is in relation to some of these topics. And so if I can kind of even get them to think, maybe what I thought isn't quite right because I saw this other viewpoint, I think that even that would be worth it.
That's a very mature way of looking at things. I'm over here like, y'all are stupid.
I do think that, only in my head, and then I calm down and post the rational thing.
I'm proud of you. You are again a very strong woman. I look around sometimes at these people who are celebrating certain things
Yeah.
and I just see people who are so like, "Yeah, this is great. I'm so happy." And I'm like, "Am I crazy? Is it me? Am I the one that's like a dumbass here or am I the one that is the logical one?" It's making me I'm going nuts, girl.
Don't let them gaslight you. You're not crazy.
So you mean to tell me that top priority for American health is not getting rid of red food dye 40? It's the boulders?
Yeah. Red 40 is not a boulder, guys.
No. That's like the most minuscule piece of sand I think I've ever seen in my
It is
entire
a
life.
single grain of sand, if that.
You had a really good post that talked about these big picture things of like, if you really want America to be healthy, if you really want the people in this society to be healthier, these are the actionable things that you can work on and you can improve, and it will positively improve the quality of life of a multitude of people in your country. I always think of food deserts because someone tried to tell me that food deserts do not exist. Do you have any opinion on that? Just like I'm just curious.
Oh my gosh. They do exist. That's not my opinion, that's a fact. Like, there are researchers that legitimately study this, right? Like, low access versus no access, and
It's terrible. I did home health in rural Pennsylvania, and I remember I had a patient who had recently gotten a BKA, so like a below the knee amputation. and they were wheelchair bound. They could not drive because it was a right BKA. When you get out discharged from the hospital, it's not like your car just shifts over and you can drive it with your left foot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to figure out how they could get groceries, and they were within 2 blocks of a Dollar General.
Mm-hmm.
That was the closest and most accessible food source for that person. Otherwise, they would have to figure out how to travel around 40 minutes by car to the closest grocery store.
Yeah.
That's not his fault. He didn't ask to have a BKA, but infrastructure is not in place to support individuals, especially in rural or low income areas.
Your health is not completely determined by you. There are all of these systemic issues that also influence our health. And I think, we were talking about the boulders and the pebbles and the sand. We could even consider all of the things that I mentioned as boulders as pebbles if we want to look on a more macro level. And then the boulders would be these systemic issues, right? Like healthcare access and maybe transportation issues, the fact that we don't really have walkable cities. Health literacy would be another huge boulder.
Huge boulder. People deserve to be health literate. They deserve to be an active participant in their healthcare. And that's just like one facet of what you're talking about in public health. It's just the only facet I can physiologically relate to. What else? Do you have anything else you want to plug or anything else you're doing?
I am about 80% sure I'm going to compete in August, but a lot of life is up in the air right now based on these other graduate programs. So we will see.
Ooh, well, if you do end up competing, I will be sending you all the strong and positive vibes your way.
I'll need them, I'm sure. Yeah, so Iron Maidens of the Midwest 2025 coming up first weekend in December. It's a USPA untested meet. So if you're looking for a meet in the Midwest, give that one a shot. It's female only. And then I have coaching available as well if you're interested in learning powerlifting or if you're an established powerlifter searching for a coach. You can hit me up on Instagram. I've got slots open. It's Strength Coach Kat. Kat is KAT.
Thank you again so much for coming on.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, share, rate, and review. It helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Do you have any questions or suggestions? Email me at musclesandmalarkey@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at musclesandmalarkey. Yeehaw and yee-claw, everybody.